Rob Bass is probably one of the most underrated rappers who don't get his props to me. He don't get his props for what he did in the hip hop game. That 1988 platinum hit, It Takes Two, that was my junk right there, man. I used to dance like crazy when that came on. I told y'all at the house, man, family parties and stuff, man, jamming to them songs, man. Back in 2008, It Takes Two was ranked number 37 on VH's 100 Greatest Songs of Hip Hop. And I want to say Teddy Riley produced that record, if I'm not mistaken. And I also remember seeing an interview where Rob Bass saying he was saying he's still making money off that single to this day. That song is still feeding his family to this day. Wow. Man, I know because I used to play that album all the time when I first got my record player with the tape decks below it. I used to bump the songs Get on the Dance Floor, Joy and Pain, and Creativity all the time. Those are my songs right there, my jumps. But Rob Bass, man, has lost a lot of close people to him through the years. His wife died back in October 2013, and they was together for 23 years, all the way up until she passed, which was from unnamed causes. His boy and childhood friend who was in the group with him named DJ Easy Rock, he died on April 27th, 2014, just 6 months after Rob Bass' wife passed. DJ Easy Rock, he died after having a diabetic seizure. He was only 46 years old. Another person he was close to was that guy that sung on the song Joy and Pain. He did the hook. His name was Omar Chandler. He was stabbed to death after he was robbed inside his South Carolina apartment. You know what? Let's get a little bit into that story of Omar Chandler, right? Now, see, the story goes with that. First off, Omar Chandler was a 90s R&B singer that started off as a contestant on the Showtime at the Apollo during the 80s. Then he finally got his break and he signed a deal with MCA Records during the New Jack Swing era. And he ended up doing a collaboration with Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock on the song Joy and Pain. Then in 1991, he released his self-titled debut album on MCA Records with the single titled Do You Really Want It, featuring Fat Boys member Prince Marky D. And that song hit number 68 on the Billboard's Hot R&B Singles chart and stayed on the chart for 7 weeks. And he had another single too called This Must Be Heaven, featuring R&B singer Audrey Wheeler, which was a remake from the 70s R&B group Brainstorm. I remember that song too, This Must Be Heaven. I used to love that song when it used to come on Quiet Storm. Now, that song hit number 36 on Billboard's Hot R&B Singles chart. And that one was on the charts for about 12 weeks, becoming his only highest chart appearance on the R&B charts. In 1997, he released his second album titled Pieces of My Heart on Expansion Records in the United Kingdom. But I don't see the sales for that, so I don't know how that album did. Now, after that though, he took a little break from the music industry and moved to Hartsville, South Carolina to be close to his mother. And he would help out the community by sponsoring talent shows for kids. He was real active in the community out there in South Carolina. But on February 28th, 2013, he just disappeared for a couple of days and was missing. And nobody in his family or friends, they haven't seen or spoke to him. And that's not like him. And then days later, on March 4th, 2013, family members decided to go check on his house. They went to check his house and see if he was there. And his van wasn't there. So they managed to get inside of his house, and when they went in there, that's when they found him dead in the hallway, stabbed to death. And they called the police, and police investigated, and they noticed that several items were missing from his home, like his flat screen TV, his wallet, cell phone, plus, like I said, his white 1998 Chrysler Town and country minivan was gone. Now, about a week later, a suspect was identified, and they arrested a 46-year-old man named John Reuben Mitchell, and they charged him with murder, possession of a weapon, doing a violent crime, grand larceny, and petty larceny. But check this, a week later, after that, they arrested two women in connection with the crime. It was a mother and a daughter, 37-year-old Irene Foster and her 17-year-old daughter, Kiera LaQuisha Foster. And they was charged with accessory after the fact to a felony murder. Man, shaking my head, man. That's sad, man. But rest in peace to that brother, man, Omar Chandler. And y'all make sure y'all check out his music. He was 51 years old, man. It's a shame, man. Now, another person Rob Bass lost is his younger cousin named Ryan Ginyur, who was shot and killed just days before he was about to graduate from the New York School of Medical and Dental Assistants in New York. Now, the story goes, Ryan Ginyur, his father and Rob Bass were first cousins. And Ryan, he used to be a high school basketball star in the Bronx. And I don't know if an injury stopped him from pursuing his NBA career dream or what, but he now was looking at being a dental assistant and was supposed to graduate the following week. And his family they were proud of him, man, for doing that. And he was well known in his neighborhood, funny guy, fun loving, and some say he was a ladies' man. But see, earlier that day, right, he had brought home his graduation outfit for his graduation. That was just days away. He had just got his cap and gown. Now, later on that day, that night, he met one of his friends, a guy named Anthony Castillo, and he wanted to give him a ticket to his graduation. So they was meeting at the neighborhood park on the basketball court around 9 p.m. And there was a lot of other people out there too, right? Now, as soon as he was about to hand the graduation tickets to his friend, they say all of a sudden, somebody started firing shots at Ryan and Anthony, and he ended up being shot. He was the only one shot, Ryan. Now, Ryan ended up getting shot in the stomach, and when police and the paramedics arrived, he was able to give his version of the shooting. He did tell the cops what had happened, but for the most part, nobody apparently saw the shooting. Now at the hospital, Ryan had to go through about 5 hours of surgery, but he later died, man. Shaking my head. That's terrible, man. Just days away before he was about to graduate from medical school, man. And the family was devastated and heartbroken, man, because instead of going to the graduation now, they now planning his funeral. Shaking my head, man. Sad, man. Now, police investigated the scene, and they did find some 9mm shells casings, but they really didn't have a motive for the shooting or a suspect at the time. But they did know that his friend Anthony Castillo was affiliated with a gang and had also survived being shot back in 2011. Now, Anthony Castillo was very upset and crying when he had to talk to the news people. He said that it went from a handshake to a dead friend, and said Ryan was never involved in any criminal activity and believes it was just a drive-by in the park. He wasn't the intended target. Now, some of Ryan's close friends, man, they was angry at that, man, that happened to him, because they were saying people was hating on him and was just jealous. They even went on their social media and posted stuff like, when people see how good you're doing, and they envy that, and they want to take it all from you. Shaking my head, man. Now, later on, police did release surveillance photos and a video of the person of interest, but I think the case is still unsolved to this day, though. I think the case is still unsolved. You know, he was only 24 years old. Rest in peace to Ryan Ginyur, man. And please keep Rob Bass and his family in y'all prayers. It's a shame, man. Sad, man. Let's get into another story, man. Let's get into Beyonce's cousin. It's another crazy. It's Beyonce's people right here. Now, on January 26, 2021, a guy named Martell DeRuin, who was the cousin of superstar singer Beyonce, he was shot and killed in his apartment in San Antonio, Texas. Now, the story goes because, see, first off, right, Martell was related to Beyonce on her mother's side because they got the same grandmother, whose name is Agnes DeRuin. Now, even though Martell was related to one of the most famous celebrities in the world, Beyonce, he didn't try to use that to get in the music business, though. He wanted to make it on his own. And I don't know how close they were, but he really didn't tell anyone that they was related. He didn't mention it to nobody. And you know, that's a good thing too, because sometimes you just want to be successful on your own, man. But anyway, now, Martell, he had signed a record deal with the label The Orchid, which was distributed through Sony in 2019. And his rap name that he went by was called Cardone. And he had just released a mixtape called Trunk Bang. And at the time, he was looking for some girls. He needed some girls for his video. So that's when he went online looking for girls, and he found a woman who went by the name of Sasha Scar, who at the time was an aspiring rapper herself trying to get on. And they ended up meeting, and he took a liking to her, and he wanted to help her out with her music, and they started working together, right? He even produced a single for her with him featured on it called Zoom. Now, some say they started dating, and they was living together as a couple, because at the time he was separated from his wife, but they were still on good terms. They were still friends. Now, around January, nobody could get in contact with Martell. His family, his ex-wife, friends, everybody kept texting and trying to call him for days, but he never responded. Now, another thing, right, that concerned them was he was supposed to be headlining a show that Saturday, but that whole week, for some reason, he wasn't posting or promoting nothing on social media, which was strange because he's always posting on social media. Now concerned, that's when his stepmother called the police to go to Martell's apartment for a welfare check to make sure he was all right. And when police arrived, they noticed a bullet hole in his front door. So they knocked, hoping somebody would answer, but no one came to the door. That's when they had to go to the apartment management to get the door open so they can get inside to see what's up. And when they finally got the door open, that's when they saw Martell lying on the floor dead with a gunshot wound. Now investigating, homicide detectives on the scene found evidence and could tell that a fight had taken place inside the apartment, and they also believed that a gun was taken from his bedroom or closet and it was clear someone had fired a gun outside the apartment and into the front door near the peephole where Martell stood on the other side. Now, the next thing the cops did was they looked at the surveillance footage and they saw a woman walking around the apartment complex shortly after shots were fired. Now, it also showed that woman was walking the apartment complex hallways near Martell's apartment with a cell phone in one hand and a gun in the other hand. Plus, a witness in the neighborhood that knew Martell and Sasha later described Sasha as the person who was banging on Martell's door. Now, also in the investigation, right, they found out that someone did call 911 around 10:45 p.m. and the caller claimed to be Martell's wife. But see, here's the thing though. This is what happened. Sasha, after she killed Martell, right, she panicked and got scared. So what she did was try to pretend she was his ex-wife, and she called the police and told them she was locked out of her apartment and worried her husband Martell could be hurt inside. She was trying to play like she was his ex-wife, trying to put everything on her. She thought she can get away with that. But see, police already knew Martell's ex-wife. Her name was Joy. They knew her voice because she had already been in contact with the police when he was missing. Plus, the police knew the phone number that called in did not belong to Joy. And cops believe the person on the other line had a different voice than Joy. And this is where Sasha messed up at, right? This is where she messed up at. When she made that 911 call, she slipped up and gave them her last known address instead of Martell's address. And when she did that, that's when police put out a warrant for her arrest for murder. And look, right? Come to find out, she was already wanted by the law enforcement in Austin, Texas at the time. Now see, the story behind that, why police was looking for her in Austin, Texas. But first, let's get a little deeper into her life, right? This girl, Sasha Scar. 21-year-old Sasha Scar. This girl was wild. Now, Sasha, about 4 years ago, ended up meeting a guy named Andrew Bass, and they started dating, and she ended up moving in with him and his mother. She moved in with him and his mother because at the time she had nowhere to go. Now, Andrew's mother said Sasha was quiet. She was meek and didn't have any concerns about her whatsoever. But on November 29th, 2019, Andrew Bass was killed during a robbery from a drug deal that went bad. Now, the story goes that incident, it happened around 1:34 p.m. It was in the daytime. Police received a call from a woman claiming her boyfriend had been shot. And when they arrived, they found Andrew Bass bleeding inside a gray Kia Rio at an auto body repair shop. And Sasha Scar was on the phone. Now, the medics arrived and performed CPR on Andrew Bass, who had a gunshot wound on the left side of his chest, but there was nothing they could do, and he was pronounced dead at 1:59 p.m. Now, while on the scene investigating, right, police received a 911 call reporting that a man showed up at a liquor store with a gunshot wound. Now, he had gunshot wounds, and he was taken to the medical center with wounds in his leg and his chest. Now, by this time, police were talking to Sasha to find out what happened. And according to her, she said her boyfriend Andrew Bass wanted to buy marijuana from a person she did not know in the parking lot. She said she drove the Kia, which belonged to Andrew Bass's mother, to the store, then parked the car, and Andrew walked off. That was what she said. And about a minute later, She said she heard gunshots and found Andrew wrestling with another man, and he told her to get the gun out of the other guy's hand. That's when she grabbed the gun and a bag of marijuana from the man and put them inside the Kia, and then she helped Andrew Bass, her boyfriend, into the back seat of the car and drove away because they had shot each other. Andrew Bass and the other guy, they were shooting at each other and both of them was hit. She said after that, right, she had called 911 when she realized she did not know how to get to the hospital. Now, she also told the cops that the whole thing had been set up by her boyfriend, Andrew, and she was just tagging along and had no idea who they had met or who the suspect was. So the cops didn't arrest her. She wasn't arrested. They let her go. But after police investigators did some more digging into the story, now they had to go talk to the guy who was now in the hospital. And when police talked to him, he told his side of the story of what really happened. That's when they knew that Sasha's story was not matching up from what she told them originally after they had went and interviewed the suspect in the hospital, because the suspect in the hospital, now see, at first he told the police, right, that he met Sasha in the parking lot in a different location, but police already had all the evidence. Police told him that he was lying because they knew blood was found in his apartment. And when they told him that, that's when he just came out and decided to tell the truth. And the truth was, he said he known Sasha since 2018, and they hung out about every 3 months. And she had asked him on Instagram if he wanted to meet up that day to buy some marijuana. And that's when he invited her to his apartment, and he showed the police the messages and the conversations on his phone and everything. He had the evidence, because look, he said when Sasha and Andrew got to the apartment, she introduced Andrew to him and they shook hands, but then Andrew pulled out a gun on him and told him not to move. After that, he said he reached for his gun on the couch. Next thing you know, he heard a lot of gunshots, but he wasn't sure who fired the first shot though. And like Sasha told the cops, right, he did confirm that him and Andrew were fighting and wrestling while holding the guns, and Sasha was able to get the gun out of his hand before they ran out of his apartment. And after they left the apartment, he said he staggered out of his apartment and went to a nearby store for help, not realizing he had been shot. Now, here's the thing. Sasha was supposed to go to court for this whole situation, right? But she never showed up, and she ended up being charged with aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon, a first-degree felony. But like I said, she never showed up to court, and she just went on a run. And police issued a warrant, and they was offering up to $1,000 for information that leads to her arrest. And she was arrested 2 weeks later. They got her in Converse, Texas, but later on, she made bail and they released her. Now, that's the story with that situation. So she basically was on the run when she met Martell, Beyonce's cousin. She was on the run when she met him. But for Martell's murder, they did ended up catching Sasha Scar on February 6, 2021. And she was being held on a $500,000 bond. And if convicted, she's facing 5 to 99 years or life in prison. And it's crazy because when they caught her, right, she had burn marks. Look, she had all these burn marks on her face. She had burn marks all over her face. And they said it was due to a tank explosion or something like that. But some people say she might try to cover herself up because she was wanted for murder and all that stuff. But I don't know. Now, neither Beyonce nor her rep has confirmed, denied, or publicly commented on reports of Martell's death yet. They haven't commented on his death yet, so I don't know, man. So rest in peace to that brother, man, Martell Ruin. 34 years old, man. Up and coming rapper, man. It's a shame, man. Sad, man. Let's get into another story, man. Let's see what else I got. Oh, here's one about Rihanna's cousin. Now, on December 26, 2017, pop star singer Rihanna's cousin named Tavon was shot and killed in Barbados one day after she had just visited him and the family. Now, the story goes, according to his sister Tanella, right? She said around about 7 p.m., Tavon was walking through the Eden Lodge area of St. Michael's to his girlfriend's house when all of a sudden a guy approached him and shot him several times. He was rushed to the hospital but later died from his injuries. She said she was relaxing with her boyfriend and heard gunshots and thought they came from some people in another area, so she didn't run out when she heard them. But when her sister called, that's when she put two and two together and told herself it had to be her brother Tavon. She also stated that Tavon didn't deserve to die like that, man. He didn't go looking for trouble, even though he wasn't a saint, but that doesn't mean he deserved to be murdered. Now, police did arrest a suspect, a 23-year-old man named Shawane Deshaun Williams, and charged him with murder. And when he went to the court, right, they said he showed no remorse while appearing in front of the judge. Now, after hearing the news, Rihanna posted a bunch of pictures on social media of her cousin Tavon and called for an end to the gun violence. That's crazy, man. The crazy part is she just went to visit him on Christmas, and the next day he's murdered. Wow. That's sad, man. Shaking my head, man. He was only 21 years old. Rest in peace to that young brother, man. Wow, man. See what else we got. What else we got, y'all? Let me see. Oh, let's get this one. You know, man, Bobby Brown, man. Legendary R&B singer Bobby Brown has lost a lot of people close to him, man. So y'all please make sure y'all keep him in y'all prayers, man. Pray for him, man. Bobby Brown has been through a lot, but he's still standing tall, though. He's still standing tall. I mean, he lost Whitney, his ex-wife, Whitney, greatest singer of all time. She was found dead after drowning in the Beverly Hills hotel bathroom, in which the coroner said heart disease and cocaine were the main factors. She was 48 years old. Then, 3 years later, their daughter, 22-year-old Bobby Christina Brown, they found her face down, unconscious in the bathtub at her Georgia home, and she died months later in the Atlanta area hospice. And she was buried next to her mother Whitney in a New Jersey cemetery. And you know, Nick Gordon, her boyfriend at the time, was blamed for her death, but was never charged in that case, but was found responsible in a wrongful death civil lawsuit and ordered to pay $36 million to Bobby Christina's estate. And then he died at the age of 30 on January 1st, 2020, New Year's Day. I do got the Bobby Christina story on the Fame, Family, and Tragedy. I think it's episode 2 I did it on. It's either on my Patreon or it might be on here. Now, more tragedy now, man, for Bobby Brown, man. Now his son, Bobby Brown Jr., 28 years old, he was found dead at Bobby Brown's house in California. Now, the story goes with that, right? The day before, just hours earlier, he had called his ex-girlfriend, He say Bobby Jr. called his ex-girlfriend, even though they weren't on good terms at the time, but he wanted to talk to her and see if she was willing to give him another chance at the relationship according to her. This is what she said. Now, while talking to him on the phone, she said he sounded congested and he was coughing intensely. And he started explaining to her how sick he was and how he said, look, you never know what you'll die from, because he had a heart condition that he was born with as a child. And as a child, he had an operation which left a visible scar on his chest. And according to her, she said she wanted him to go see a doctor because she thought he might have COVID, but he wouldn't go to the doctor. He don't go to doctors because he has a phobia of hospitals. So look, the next day, his current girlfriend named Anna Reed, that was his ex-girlfriend, is saying all that what I was saying earlier. Now, Anna Reed was his current girlfriend. Now, she was the last one to see him alive that morning. And she was the one that found him unresponsive on his bedroom floor. And that's when she called paramedics. And when the paramedics arrived, they started working on him, trying to revive him, but it's just too late, man. And they declared him dead. It's a shame, man. Now, after that, the police, they investigated the scene, but they found no evidence of drugs or drug paraphernalia. And close friends of Bobby Jr.'s, everybody was just saying he suffered flu-like symptoms at that time. But see, months later, after they did that autopsy, it revealed that he died from the combined effects of alcohol, cocaine, and opioid fentanyl. The medical examiner also said that there was no evidence of internal injuries, and his death was listed as accidental. Now, friends and his girlfriend, Anna, they say that evening, before he was found unresponsive, he had consumed tequila with some friends. He had drunk some tequila, and he snorted a half a Percocet along with 3 lines of cocaine. Now, most of his friends knew he had a medical history of cigarette use, in which he smoked a pack a day. He was also vaping. Plus, he smoked marijuana, and he drank alcohol socially. But another close friend of his said he never saw Bobby depressed or use drugs, and said he was just working on his album because he was trying to follow in the footsteps of his father, Bobby Brown. Even though he did put up a post, now Bobby Jr. did put up a post about the fight against depression and quarantine weeks before he died. But for the most part, friends, everybody just think it was an accident. Now, see, after that autopsy revealed that an overdose killed him, his father, Bobby Brown Sr., legendary Bobby Brown, was devastated, man, because they was very close. And Bobby Brown did put out a statement and said that the street fentanyl has taken the life of so many people unnecessarily, and his son Bobby Jr. is another victim. He said the epidemic is out of control, and those people who are supplying this lethal drug should be held responsible for the death and destruction that it causes. In an interview with Jada Pinkett Smith on her show, Red Table Talk, right, Bobby Brown said an investigation was going on. It is still going on. And they're trying to find the person who supplied the drugs to his son. He said his son wasn't a user, but he would experiment with different things. But it wasn't like he was a dependent on drugs like he was in his situation, because Bobby Brown said he needed it when he was on it. But his son, Bobby Brown Jr., was just a young man that tried the wrong stuff, and it took him out of here. Shaking my head, man. Sad, man. Now, Bobby Brown Jr.'s mother, Kim Ward, also agreed with what Bobby said, and she put out a statement saying that her son wasn't into drugs like that, but was often easily influenced. And this is a situation where he associated himself with the wrong people. She said her son is gone now, and those who contributed to his senseless death should be held accountable. And Bobby Brown and Kim Ward, they both think that Bobby Brown Jr. may have consumed street fentanyl without his knowledge, and it killed him because when they did the autopsy, right, he had low trace amounts of alcohol and cocaine in his system, but he had fatal amounts of fentanyl in his heart and blood. Wow. Sad, man, because I remember seeing him on that reality show, Being Bobby Brown. Man, that's my show, man. I love that show. I just watched all those episodes on YouTube not too long ago. And just seeing them all together as a family was beautiful to me, man. Whitney, Bobby, Christina, Papa Brown, Pops Brown, Tommy was in there, Bobby Jr., the Prince, all of them was in there, man. The family, it was beautiful to me, man. I love that show, man. And Bobby Brown Jr. did drop a song called Say Something back in September 2020. And he had like a little video with it, a little clip on Instagram you can check out. But he was only 28 years old. Rest in peace to that brother, man. Rest in peace to that young brother, man. And y'all stay tuned for more episodes on Fame, Family, and Tragedy.